Alrighty, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Angel, and I'm with the Delray Beach Chamber of Commerce. We have Miss Vivian DeMille here today to go ahead and give us some techniques to de-stress during these stressful times. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to her.
Awesome. And I'm going to start my PowerPoint right now. Thank you for joining. Can you see the PowerPoint? I'm thinking you can. So welcome to this training, and I'm going to spend about 20 minutes just training us up, and then 20 minutes guiding a practice, and maybe 25 and leave a few minutes in for questions. So I call my practice Mindfulness Rebooted because I use mindfulness, but it's a combination of mindfulness, breath work, and meta practice. So why mindfulness? Why does anyone need mindfulness? So the reason mindfulness is a beneficial practice, oftentimes we think of meditation and I was guilty of thinking this 20 years ago when I started meditating. I come from the healthcare environment and I believed in science and business and really didn't have any experience with this. And anytime I thought about those folks out there doing meditation, I thought it was something woo-woo and just, not for me. And then I discovered the benefits of it. And then I began to do the research on the benefits of it. And right now, mindfulness is probably one of the most researched practices out there in terms of a meditative practice. But it's not only meditation, and we'll talk about that later. And some of the research, and if you type in on just any Google search, research in mindfulness, you'll see thousands upon thousands of research articles and just articles on some of the benefits of this practice. But it improves resiliency. Which is really my biggest interest is resiliency. And resiliency is our capacity to manage stress. Those factors that are effective at keeping us nice and healthy, especially in the face of stress. It reduces stress, reduces burnout, improves turnover rates, improves health and emotional health, and improves job and life satisfaction, and improves performance and productivity because mindfulness is all about paying attention to the task at hand. So when we're really present with something, our performance goes through the roof and it improves quality of life. This is all based on research out there. So I wanted to talk about current state of affairs, and this is a presentation I often give in the workforce environment. So it has a lot of workforce data. And really, right now, we just need it because of where we're at with society and the issues we're facing, the stressors, incredible stressors and lifestyle changes for all of us. But even before this, there was a tremendous amount of issue with stress and burnout and turnover in the workplace. And we know that stress leads to so many health and emotional health issues. It's linked to heart disease, high blood pressure, strokes, gastrointestinal issues, migraines, depression, anxiety, and so much more. 82% of Americans report being stressed by work. 25% feel, if not higher, right, feel that stress at work is their number one source of stress. More than a third of people say their job is harming their physical and emotional well-being. 50% say stress is affecting productivity levels. 42% say job pressures are interfering with normal family activities. Stress and burnout accounts for about 40% of all turnover across all industries in the US. This is before coronavirus. So I can't even imagine what stress is going to do, the amount of stress that we're all under now and what impact it's going to have on all of us in our work and in our personal lives. So more on impact on workforce health. We spend more of our time working than anything else, and researchers have found that these are the least happiest hours of our lives. Prolonged stress can and does lead to physical and mental health deterioration. Stress accounts for about 50% increase in healthcare costs and costs about $300 billion a year in the US, and absenteeism, reduced productivity level, healthcare costs, and turnover. There's an average of 10 sick days per year that are attributed to stress, according to the research studies that I've looked at. And also it's responsible for longer periods of employee disability than any other work-related injury or illness. The World Health Organization talks about depression. I think a lot of times, depression being the number one leading cause of the number one disease worldwide in terms of years lived with a disability or cost to society. And I think oftentimes stress and depression go hand in hand. So it's not something that's new. You know what, mindfulness practices are not something that's not widely accepted. I think some of the bigger corporations all have mindfulness programs, and not only do they have mindfulness programs, a lot of these corporations are measuring the results of mindfulness and how it improves the workforce. And there's various measures for looking at that. One of them is sick days, increased productivity, workplace satisfaction. I personally use resiliency tools to test resiliency, like standardized tools that we can look at to see improvements in resiliency as well. And then there's also so many universities, most universities at this point have mindfulness programs within their universities because we already know that this is effective. And our healthcare leaders, particularly in the research space, are all advocating for mindfulness as a preventative measure, a preventative health measure these days because it works. So what is Mindfulness Rebooted and what we're going to do today? Mindfulness Rebooted is Mindfulness Plus Plus. And in my long-term classes, it's plus one more, which is brain health techniques. I teach a lot about how to keep our brain healthy. But Mindfulness Rebooted includes a breathwork practice. It's a short practice. You can do it in 20 minutes, but it's a combination of breath work, mindfulness, and metta meditation. I'm going to describe what those three things are. So mindfulness is not a meditation technique. A lot of people think mindfulness is meditation. It's actually defined as being present in moment-to-moment awareness of one's experience without judgment. It includes two parts: self-regulating our attention to the immediate present moment with an open, curious, and accepting attitude. What that means is really being fully present with whatever is in front of you. And we know that that's such a difficult thing to do, especially in today's world, where we're trained to be distractible, where our attention span is decreasing based on just the amount of stimuli that we have in television and internet, the speed at which we receive information, the multitasking that we do. We're actually training ourselves out of the present moment. But we know that where everything is happening is right here in the present and not in our heads. Yet, we live in our heads about 95% of the time. We have this system called the default mode network in our brain, which is absolutely needed to manage life. We have millions of pieces of data that are thrown at our brain all day long. And this data that's thrown at us, if we had to process all this information, we'd be crippled. So we have this beautiful network where we store information, and we almost work on autopilot, but it's not autopilot. It's not conscious. It's beyond the level of consciousness where we're engaging with society, and instantly, based on what we've learned in the past, we're interpreting information and making decisions. Kind of like when we drive in the car and we get from point A to point B and we have no clue how we got there because we've been in our head the whole time. This is the operating system. It's called the default mode network, and it's operating 95% of the time. The problem is it operates out of data that's been stored based on past experiences that may or not be beneficial for us and may have been learned very early on in childhood or through repetition of habits and behaviors that may not serve us, may not necessarily be true. So this system operates 95% of the time. We're actually conscious and present 5% of the time. And when we're not conscious, we're not getting a choice over our decisions. So mindfulness is this activity to train ourselves to actually increase our attention and to the present moment, to whatever's in front of us. The other part of mindfulness is how do we do it with an attitude of openness, curiosity, and acceptance, kindness, non-judgment. Judgment meaning just being with something, because there's this difference between being with something and thinking about something. If I'm listening to, and I have this perfect example, Yanni talked about it. I happen to love Yanni, and a lot of people who love him or giggle when I say that. But Yanni talks about in his Unplugged show, he said, I used to go into the zone where I would hear this beautiful music and all I had to do is interpret it. But then I would have a thought like, man, I like this, or I don't like this, or this is amazing. And all of a sudden I'd be dropped out of the zone. He was presencing with his creativity, with this creativity and this music that was coming to him. But the minute he had a thought about it, he was no longer present with it. You're either thinking about something and outside of the experience, just creating a story about it, or we're being with it. So mindfulness is about teaching us how to be with something without creating a story about it in our head and just actually experience it. So there's various practices that train our brain on mindfulness. Mindful meditation is one of those practices, and it's probably it is the most well-researched mindfulness practice. But other really researched mindfulness practices are yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, and also there's other practices that we do. There's mindful walking practices, mindful communication practices. How do we become really present in our communication skills, and mindful eating, and so much more. So mindfulness is, again, not a meditation. The meditation is a training tool to allow us to build up the capacity of our brain to be more present in the moment. Okay. So I put this article here. I heard from some folks, it was put everywhere, but then they said, it's been disproved. We actually have a couple more seconds of a attention span. But the Time posted an article saying we now have a shorter attention span than goldfish. A new study found that generally now our concentration is at about 8 seconds, which is pretty shocking when you start to think about it. And I've seen other studies that say it's slightly more, but not much more than that. So as you can see, like we are really, and we're not, our attention span is very limited and becoming shorter and shorter. And this idea that we had before, that multitasking work, it doesn't. We actually don't produce as well. We don't produce as a quality product. So the idea is we need to get back to this place where we can presence with things so that we can access all of this information that's in front of us so that we can make better decisions and perform better. Okay, so I combined mindfulness with my other favorite meditation practice, which is called loving kindness. And loving kindness is such a simple meditation practice that when I began to use this meditation practice, I'm like, this can't be something that can really work. How can just saying, may you be happy, may you be well, may you be safe, may you be peaceful and at ease. And metta, what this means is this attitude of loving kindness towards others, this wish for others' well-being. And in a metta practice, we actually think of folks, our friends, maybe folks that we're having issues with, the community at large, all humanity. And we say these words either once or through repetition while we're thinking about these things. And this is another really well-studied practice. And what we're finding is that it has a tremendous amount of benefit. And how these practices work, what I love about visualization and using visualization is, as a behavioral health professional, I learned about the power of visualization through the work that I do. So sometimes when we're talking, and I work in a field of trauma, when we're talking with patients with a ton of trauma, we start processing some of the stuff that's going on. And what we found when we hook folks up to it, EKGs, to EEGs, is that their response, their physiological response to talking about these traumas, are as if the trauma itself was happening to them. So when we visualize something, whatever it is we visualize, we trigger our body into the response as if it's actually happening to us. What's even more interesting is that when we're talking vicarious trauma, a therapist is in the room and they're hearing the story and they're hooked up to all these devices, they're monitoring their brain waves, monitoring their physiological responses, are that the therapist is also, just from hearing the story, having the same exact response in their body as if their body is under that type of stress. So on the opposite side of that, if we think pleasant thoughts, we release all these beautiful neurochemicals, serotonin, dopamine, anandamine, norepinephrine, these feel-good chemicals. And we also reinforce the pathways for those feel-good pathways. And the brain is super malleable. We talk about brain plasticity, and we can train the brain just like we can train any other muscle. So when we train the brain to see through the eyes of love and compassion, we actually get to experience the world that way, even more so. So I love this practice. The third thing that I use is breath. I talk fast, so I probably need to breathe now. I'm Latina, and Latina's all, Latina Armenian, and we, both are fast talking folks. So, breath and the vagus nerve. Breath is probably, I think that right now, of all the practices I champion, breath is probably the most important one because it's the easiest one. It's effective. You don't have to go sit anywhere by yourself, close your eyes, think about anything. You just go and you just breathe. And there's different breathing practices that can actually downregulate our system. So breath is connected to the vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve is a cranial nerve. It's actually the 10th cranial nerve, and it's the most complex nerve. It runs through our face, through our eyes, our ears, down our throat, through our larynx, down into our heart and our lungs. And it is responsible for processing sensory information and sending that information to the brain. And alongside with processing this information, it is the primary system that drives our parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems, which are our fight, flight, rest, digest system. So the sympathetic nervous system is designed to keep us out of trouble in dangerous situations. It's an old system that we were born with, and that it came from eons ago. And it was really during the times where we had serious dangers. We were probably in the jungles and had all these, wildlife and issues that we had to deal with. And what it does, it has three things that it causes us to do when it senses dangers in our environment. It's fight, flight, or freeze. Actually, the oldest one of our responses is that freeze response. That's why you often see people when they're in critical situations or really dangerous situations, they're like, I didn't do anything, I just froze. But that often also can happen in a situation like now where we're not producing. I find myself not producing as much as I would normally produce because I'm a little bit frozen by all of the stress and everything that's going on in the world. And so this is the sympathetic nervous system. And when we engage it, it engages our adrenaline response. We flood our body with cortisol. We norepinephrine. We our heart rate begins to beat fast. Our heart rate increases. Our heart rate variability, which is the length between heartbeats and what determines good health, decreases. Our respiration increases, becomes faster. Our blood pressure goes up. Actually affects, because that same cranial nerve does go back down into the belly, affects the digestive system. And over a long period of time, we all know that stress leads to just so many health issues, and it's really having this revved up system. What's problematic is we have so much stress in today's society, and I think I wrote about when I was writing about the vagus nerve, just driving in a car, much less all that's going on right now, can trigger that system. And over time, you have this overactive sympathetic nervous system response. We have this other system called the parasympathetic system, and it's constantly our system is constantly gauging between these two responses: stress, the fight, flight, or rest and digest, which is the parasympathetic. It's where we feel safe. And in this safety system, when we feel safe, we release neurotransmitters that slow our heartbeat down, that slow down the respiration, lower our blood pressure, and really provide this sense of safety. What's interesting with this whole system is because our hearing is connected to this system, our eyes are connected to the system, our voice is connected to the system, it also impacts all of that. So when we're in a fight or flight response, our vision has to be focused. So it actually narrows the field of vision. We can't experience the whole world when we're in a fight flight response. On the opposite side of that, when the parasympathetic nervous system is engaged, we experience the entire, surroundings more so. With our hearing, as we are in stressful situation, and this, you can look up polyvagal theory. It's a beautiful explanation of all of this in detail. I'm going super quick because I'm almost out of time for this part of it. But also with our hearing actually attunes itself to danger when we are in this sympathetic nervous system response. So we stop hearing the prettier sounds. On the opposite side, when our parasympathetic nervous system is engaged, we're entraining ourselves to the more beautiful sounds in our environment. So voice is also, and our own personal voice is connected to it and can be used to trigger the system. What's super interesting is this is a bidirectional system. Just like the danger from the outside can trigger this and trigger our vision, our hearing, our respiration, we can use all of those same systems to trigger the sympathetic and parasympathetic response. So what I'm really interested in, I don't want to teach you about the sympathetic nervous system and how to amp up, but there's practices we can use if you're really feeling drained to increase your energy levels, breath practices and vision practices for today and this meditation. My focus is on how do we rev down the system, because I feel like we're revving it up, and our focus should be on balancing that, really creating some balancing so we can maintain our long-term health. So on this very end of this part, I just want to leave you with, on the breathwork part, that it's so effective that our U.S. military, Navy SEAL, train on breathwork as a way of regulating this parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. One of the activities, breathwork activities, that I will leave you with today to look up, which is box breathing, was actually developed by our Navy SEALs. And there's apps out there that teach you how to use it, and we're going to learn how to use it. So I'm going to focus on 3 breathwork exercises today, 2 of which we'll do in our practice right now. And then 1 exercise that I'm going to leave you to go look up online, which is box breathing. So we're going to breathe through the nose. Nasal breathing triggers the parasympathetic nervous system. It's really effective. And we're going to do deep diaphragmatic breathing. So our breathing, we want to slow it down as much as we can and just take some full deep breaths to the bottom of the belly and full deep breaths out. When we get to the practice, we're going to do this. The other breathing that engages the parasympathetic nervous system, what's interesting is the sympathetic nervous system is linked to the in-breath, and parasympathetic nervous system is linked to the out-breath. So if we have a shorter in-breath and a longer out-breath, we're engaging the parasympathetic nervous system. So just doing 20 of these breaths can actually have an engagement of our system. So inhaling to the count of 4, exhaling to the count of 8. So in our meditation practice, we're going to do deep diaphragmatic breathing, and we're going to inhale to the count of 4, exhale to the count of 8, because we're going to focus on engaging the system. The other thing I want to leave you with to look up on your own is box breathing. And box breathing is where you inhale to the count of 4, hold to the count of 4, exhale to the count of 4, hold to the count of 4. And you increase that over time. So in addition to it being really good for the parasympathetic nervous system, oxygenating your system has so many health benefits, and you can look them all up as well. I don't want to get into that because we don't have the time. And it also allows us, as we do these breath holds, to increase our CO2 capacity, which is so super important, especially in an environment where one of the issue that we're dealing now really leaves us with health issues related to not being able to oxygenate our system. So being able to manage a higher CO2 load is super important, and maybe important over the long term with climate change as well. I am going to finish up right now so we can get into our meditation practice, but I did want to say just some of the benefits of mindfulness. Mindfulness, a 6-week practice, 8 weeks, 60. I think the studies that are done out of Harvard at the laser lab that on a mindful practice, it was an 8-week practice using folks that had never meditated before and really looking at the brain and what the results were. And the results are that there is significant change to the gray matter in the brain after just 8 weeks of meditating, including the posterior cingulate, which is involved in mind wandering and self-relevance, left hippocampus, which is cognition, memory, emotional regulation, the TPJ associated with empathy and compassion, the pons, where our regulatory neurotransmitters are produced, and the amygdala, which makes sense, the fight or flight part of the brain, which is important for anxiety and stress reduction. And we talked about some of the benefits with it. So we're going to engage in this practice. I want to just give you a few rules about mindfulness, about how mindfulness is practiced. We pay attention to there's 2 types of mindfulness practices that I like to use. One is that paying attention to a single object, which is our breath typically. It can be an external object, but typically we use our breath, or we use a part of our body. We may be paying attention to our hands if you have a hard time paying attention to your breath, to the exclusion of everything else. Now, that's really, really hard to do. The mind's going to wander. That's normal. The idea about this is that when the mind does wander, that we don't judge that. This is good, this is bad, this is where I'm supposed to be, this is not. That's the mind wandering is part of the training. And when the mind wanders, bring it back to your breath. Bring it back to this focal point. The other one technique that we often use is just sitting with ourselves in awareness, observing ourselves without judgment, without having any point of focus, just being with ourselves. We never do this. We rarely ever do this. We're always externally focused. What a beautiful opportunity to get to know what comes up. Typically, when we do this, stuff comes up. Our anxieties, our fears, our self-talk, sabotaging self-talk. I hear that all the time. I have that. We all have that. And what we want to do around this is, instead of constricting, we usually constrict when something unpleasant comes our way. And what we do is we store all this energy inside, and then this energy starts to move, and we start to have all these dialogue, create these stories. This is what the default mode network does. It looks for a reason and creates stories based on past experiences. So we're creating these stories, and then we get stuck on this mental spin. So the idea is to come back to the body. This is an embodiment practice where the stress is happening is within the body. And if we deal with the stress in the body, then the mind will naturally quiet down. Part of it is opening up around this, opening up, being curious, witnessing, breathing into it, and allowing whatever to come up without judgment, recognizing that it's not real, it's the default mode network, that we can accept whatever we want as real and keep it, or just let it go and watch it. And just continue to just breathe and stay open and stay curious without judgment. And if your mind wanders, come back to the breath. And I'm going to guide you to come back to the breath, come back to the breath. So we're going to do this practice. And again, remembering to be kind to ourselves, remembering to just be open-minded with this practice, and knowing that if you want any long-term effects, we can get a temporary feel good. If I think of something beautiful, like a sunset or just like a beautiful memory, instantly I'm going to engage the neural pathways, engage the neurochemicals that are all the feel-good chemicals, and I can have an instant fix. But the instant fix doesn't work. The brain goes back to the path of least resistance. So if you want a long-term benefit from any of these practices, you have to train up for it, which means 5 out of 7 days a week, 10 to 20 minutes a day for 6 to 8 weeks, and you'll start seeing some longer-term benefits. Having said that, I'm going to put on my music, and we're going to do a brief meditation. Okay, we're going to start by closing our eyes and begin to breathe. We're going to breathe in through our nose. Breathe in slowly and gently, feeling the breath fill up the neck, the lungs, the mid-belly, the lower belly. And as you exhale, exhale completely from the bottom of the belly all the way up to the top of the lungs. Beautiful. Continue to breathe deeply all the way to the bottom of the belly. Maybe softening the breath. Maybe pausing at the bottom of the belly. Exhaling slowly, gently. Wringing out the lungs completely. Inhale. Exhale completely. Begin with inhaling to the count of 4, exhaling to the count of 8. Exhale completely. Begin your inhale. 2, 3, 4. Pause. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Pause. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Pause. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Pause. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Pause. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Pause. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Pause. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Pause. Do this a few more times at your own pace. 3, 4 more breaths. Bringing our awareness and our attention to the crown of the head and the back of our heads right now as we come back to full diaphragmatic breathing. Just becoming aware of any tension, any sensation in the head, the top of the head, the back of the head, the ears. Inhale deeply. Exhale, relax the top of the head, relax the back of the head, relax the ears. Bringing our awareness now to our forehead, eyes, brows, cheeks, lips, nose, our mouth and chin, jaw. Turn a quick scan here, noticing any sensation, subtle or not so subtle. Maybe you're carrying tension in your face. Just become aware and present with that. Inhale deeply. Exhale, relax the forehead, the brows, the eyes, the cheeks, nose, mouth, lips, jaw. Beautiful. Bringing your awareness now to your neck, the back of your neck, maybe the back of your neck where the skull meets the neck, maybe the front of the neck. Noticing any sensation, any tension, any tightness in the neck. Inhale. Exhale, relax the back of the neck. Relax the front of the neck. Bring our attention to our shoulders. Noticing any tension in the shoulders. Any tightness. Inhale. Deeply exhale, relax the shoulders. Becoming aware of our arms, our upper arms, our elbows, our forearms. Noticing any sensation in the arms. Inhale. Exhale, relax the arms. Coming down to our wrists, our hands, our fingers, our fingertips, the palms of the hands, the top of the hand. Noticing any sensation, even subtle sensation. Inhale. Exhale, relax the hands, the wrists, the palms, the tops of your hands, your fingers and fingertips. Bringing our attention now to our back. Scanning the spine and the back from the top of the back all the way to the bottom, mid-back, lower back near the pelvis. Noticing what you feel there, just open awareness, non-judgment, just curiosity. What's going on in the spine, in the back? Inhale. Exhale, relax the upper back, relax the mid-back, relax the lower back and pelvis. Bringing our awareness to our chest, noticing what's happening in the chest, any tightness, any tension. Inhale, exhale, relax the chest. Bringing our attention now to our mid and lower belly. Scanning the mid-belly, letting the attention rest on the mid-belly and lower belly. Noticing what you feel. Inhale. Exhale, relax the mid-belly, relax the lower belly. Bringing our attention now to our legs, thighs, scanning those thighs, your knees, your calves and shins and ankles. Noticing what you feel, just bringing curiosity and awareness. Opening up around whatever it is you feel, relaxing into it. Inhale. Exhale, relax the thighs, the knees, the calves, the shins, the ankles. Bringing your attention to your feet, the arch, the balls of your feet, the tops of your foot, the heel, the toes. Noticing subtle and not so subtle sensations. Relaxing into the feet, opening up. Inhale. Relax the foot, the ankle, the tops of your feet, your arches, the ball of your foot, your toes. Bringing your awareness now to and attention to your skin, just scanning to see how the skin feels. Inhale. Exhale, relax the skin. Beautiful. We're going to go into about 5 minutes of a mindful practice. So a quiet practice where we become aware of just what's going on inside of us. You can choose the focal point of your breath or just an open awareness to whatever is coming up without judgment. I'm going to guide us through. There's going to be moments of silence, times where I'll remind you to come back to your breath. Do this for 5 minutes. If you feel any tension in your body, just open up, breathe into it. Breathe in and relax like we did with this body scan. Just relax and see what happens when we shift our relationship to the tension that comes up. The mind wanders, just bring it back to the present moment. Maybe to the breath. Sometimes we experience the urge to just do something, not just sit there. When you experience that, just look into that urge. Witness, observe it. Breathe into it. Relax around it. Come back to your breath. Training ourselves on being present with ourselves, with this moment, where everything is happening. It's right here. The mind wanders, come back to your breath, come back to the moment. Feel any discomfort, just open up around it. Allow that energy to move through. Just breathe into it. Maybe noticing the softness of the breath. Mind wanders, continue to just bring it back kindly, without judgment. Now we're going to start to imagine in our mind's eye, seeing the most beautiful sacred space you could ever imagine. It can be your favorite magical space. A beach, a mountain, a lake, a house, a river, wherever you want it to be. Just see the most beautiful sacred space ever. And see yourself in it. Fill this space up with all those things that make you feel a sense of peace and joy, connection, beauty, love, and awe. And breathe that in. See yourself breathing in the energy from this space, really filling yourself up with the peace and the tranquility and the love and beauty of the space. To breathe in, notice how much it shifts you, how you're filled with all of these sensations from your space. Become aware of yourself. To breathe in all of the beauty from your space. Notice what you feel like. Notice what you look like. From this space, I want you to begin to explore your space. Notice anything that catches your eye. Begin to explore that, breathing that in, breathing the energy of those things that really stand out to you, connecting with them. And in this space, as you're doing this, begin to invite maybe one or two people in this space that you want to share beautiful wishes for, that you would like to have engaged in this same space, in this space of beauty and love and kindness. See them coming in from the distance. Greet them with kindness and love. Look into their eyes. And in your mind's eye, you're going to say, may you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be loved. May you be healthy and free from suffering. As you say that, allow them to go and enjoy your space. Just welcome them in, and they go off and start enjoying the space. Invite yet another group of people in. It could be one or two or three, maybe more. See them as they come into this space, breathing it in, sharing in this magic and in this loving, peaceful, sacred environment. As they approach you, inhale, and as we exhale, look them in the eye and say, may you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be loved. May you be healthy and free from suffering. Welcome them into your space. Allow them to go and play. Inviting yet another group of people into your space. The last group, it could be anyone you want it to be. See them coming in from the distance, greet them with love, and say, may you be happy, may you be peaceful, may you be loved, may you be healthy and free from suffering. Calling all of the people into your space, see yourself holding hands with them in a circle. And together, bring to mind all of your community, your loved ones, your friends, your coworkers, your associations. Together, holding hands, thinking of those folks, sending them love, and saying, may you be happy, may you be peaceful, may you be loved, may you be healthy and free from suffering. Now bringing into the group's awareness all beings, maybe in Delray, all of our Delray family, all of our Florida family, expanding that awareness further to our US family and our world family. As we think of our world family, extending the wishes, may you be happy, may you be peaceful, may you be loved, may you be healthy and free from suffering. Extending that wish to all life forms, plants and animal life as well, and to our earth itself. As your group holding hands thinks of our earth and all life forms and says, may you be happy, may you be peaceful, may you be loved, may you be healthy and free from suffering. Maybe we send that intention to all beings wherever they may be, thinking of all beings wherever they may be in this life or anywhere else they may be. Saying as a collective, holding hands, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be peaceful, may you be loved and free from suffering. Beautiful. And just say goodbye. Allow your friends, your loved ones, whoever is in your space to leave. Taking a moment here to bring into mind anyone that's helped you, any guides you have, any family members, either here or from beyond, any something special, anything sacred to you, any people, and to give your thanks, your gratitude for all that they've provided. Extending those same wishes to those folks. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be peaceful. May you be loved and free from suffering. Taking a moment here to connect to a source that of sacredness, whatever you choose to call that. It can be God, Great Spirit, unified field of consciousness, all of existence, whatever you want to call that. Giving our thanks and our gratitude in our own words. And our wishes. Taking one last look around your sacred space, knowing you can come back here at any time, knowing that as we create these sacred spaces internally, that we actually shift our entire way of being. And that the more that we create this, the more that we get to view the world from the same way. Because our entire vision of reality stems from the inside, from our ideas and beliefs. Come back here whenever you want to. Find yourself back in your chair, back in your room. Maybe wiggle your fingers and toes, maybe roll your neck around in one direction and another, create some movement to remember that body again, sitting still for a while. Maybe taking a deep breath in through the nose, exhale through the mouth. Sigh, one more, inhale, exhale. And that concludes our practice. Thank you so much for practicing with me. Hope you enjoyed it.
Well, I have to say, my shoulders feel very loose now, which is lovely.
Okay. It's amazing how much tension we hold on to when we start really paying attention to it, and how just breathing, right? Breathing into it and saying relax relaxes it.
So probably about halfway through, I don't know, I just kind of felt like and I was like, oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
That was nice. That was lovely. Does anybody have any questions for Vivian? Vivian, do you have anything you'd like to share while we wait for them?
Pretty much what I think I've said, what I was going to share, which is, try to engage in this on a regular basis. Even if you just breathe 5 minutes a day, it actually has an impact. It's a biological impact on your body, and we need it right now. Remembering deep diaphragmic breathing, the 4-to-8 ratio breathing. And if you want to look up box breathing, there's a whole bunch of apps. There's free apps out there, and you can train yourself up with them. And that box breathing is that one that was created by the Navy SEALs. So if you can just do those 3 things, mindfully sit 5 minutes a day, give those wishes out. One alone, each of those are standalone practices that work. I use them together because they carry such a powerful punch. And that progressive body relaxation is also about being mindful and connected to your body. Remembering that before the mind gets triggered into a spin, we actually absorb sensations through our sensory organs, our eyes, our ears, our skin, and then we process that information. There's a sensation that happens, and then that sensation triggers a thought and an emotion. So if we can create some space between the sensation and the emotion and the thought, we can drop into that body and really open up around it. We can really get out of that mental spin. So the body scan is all about really opening up and allowing ourselves to connect to the physical being where the sensations are actually happening, getting out of our heads.
All right. Okay, so it looks like we don't have any questions. We do have a thank you, because I would say thank you as well. It was definitely just great. Um, So I'm going to go ahead and close this out now. This will be uploaded to our YouTube, to our Facebook, and to our chamber website. Under the webinars tab, you can find all of our past webinars as well as this one if you had to leave early or you missed it or you came a little bit late. Or if you just want to practice this practice again, go ahead and rewatch it. I mean, I think I probably will be doing that a couple of times, at least until I can go back to work. And then maybe after when I'm stressed. But I would like to invite you all to come next Tuesday to our webinar again. We have a lunch and learn at 12:30. We have Kim Beckett, who will be speaking on everything that you need to know about Zoom, as well as having a special appearance from Amanda Perna from the House of Perna. She will be giving a couple of tips and tricks on how to dress for a virtual call. So it should be a fun webinar to tune into. So thank you, everybody. Vivian, do we have anything else to say?
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
having me.
Bye, everybody.